Hey, girl, hey. Hey, boy, hey. Good day, thinkers, thought leaders, progressives, and dreamers. I'm Craig, the writer Stewart.
And I'm Derek J. And we are here with another conversation with Gay Like Me Conversation. And as you can see, we are not together tonight. I am at work because I have a job, unlike other people. Oh, this way. Which way are you? There you go. You're over here, Craig. To you, I'm not used to pointing. Oh, there you go. I'm not used to pointing right there.
Right.
But I had to work tonight, so I am at work on set, and what we're here to have this conversation with you guys. I'm extremely excited about. We came to you last. Was it last night? We came to you last night to give you a preview of what the conversation was, and tonight's conversation is: would you date someone HIV positive? And that's the question for tonight.
And here's the thing. We want you guys to be as honest as possible.
Hmm.
I know that this is a very, very
Well,
touchy
not as possible. We want you to be honest.
Right, right,
Like not as possible. We're not giving you a choice of honesty. Like
right,
if we gonna talk about it, let's talk about it. If you guys
right,
have been on this, if you have heard our conversations before, we're not judgmental. Well,
right.
some of us are not. I'm not. And we want to hear the truth about your experience. We're not here to judge, just here to have an open conversation and an open forum about topics in our LGBTQ community of color that help us broaden our horizons and broaden our understanding.
And the purpose of this conversation, as well as all of the conversations that we've done previously, is to bridge communities. It's to bridge, in this particular conversation, the bridge the HIV positive community and the HIV negative community. Because there are things, and I will just be completely forthcoming and tell you, there are things that people that are HIV negative talk about or discuss amongst themselves that they aren't always forthcoming about when people that are living with the virus are in the room. So again, the purpose of this conversation is not to offend anybody. We want you to speak from your perspective and from your vantage point. And those that are watching and listening, please allow people to have their perspective. Don't tear people up, bite them up. You know what I mean? Like, we're really trying to have an honest conversation so that everyone can really express themselves and be heard. That's the point of the conversation. So for those of you that are waiting in the below that, are part of the panel discussion tonight, it is completely up to you. If you want to disclose your status, I'm not going to ask that. If you'd like to disclose it, then that is completely up to you. And so that's where we'll start.
So we'll start there. But before we get into it, let's answer the question. So do you want to go first, Craig, or do you want me to go first?
Would you date someone HIV positive? You go first.
Yeah. Would I knowingly date someone HIV positive? And last night I told you I don't think that I am mature enough or have enough knowledge on the subject right now to say yes. So it would be, huh?
Go ahead. I'm gonna wait till you finish.
Yeah. So I'm saying, so yeah. So it would be in the stage I am in my life right now. I would say no. I wouldn't be able to. And even though I'm not sexually active, but I do think you said somebody made a great point before is that if you wanted to have the option of having sex, without protection, you want to be able to do that and be able to do it with a clear mind, if that's the right word to say. But yeah, I don't know enough about HIV to say yes, I can right now.
And and just to play devil's advocate before I answer your question,
no, go ahead.
Because I know somebody is watching and thinking like, well, what does he mean he doesn't know enough about it? The virus has been around since 1983 and 1984.
Well, yeah. So yes, it has been. But the thing, it hasn't affected me, so there was no reason. There's a lot of information out there that's been around forever. We don't know. You don't know about SARS, because I never had SARS, so I never had a real reason to understand SARS. So like, I never.
This bitch said SARS.
So I'm just saying. I mean, so with HIV, yes, HIV's been around a long time, but I haven't put myself in a position to have to learn more about it. So I just haven't.
Okay.
And I can say that honestly. I mean,
Right.
so I
Well,
don't know enough.
I have been in relationships
Hmm.
with 3 people that were HIV positive. And if I'm completely forthcoming, in each instance, we were already dating or, on the road to becoming, partners or in a relationship when they found out. And
Oh wow.
with the exception of the very first one, the other 2 found out because I always push to get tested. Like when I'm getting serious about someone,
Hmm.
one of the conversations that I want to have. And for me, I've always had a healthy fear of the
Hmm.
virus. And I
Hmm.
say that because a friend of mine who is HIV positive has told me that forever. Like he and I were friends before he became positive.
Hmm.
And before he became positive, I remember him saying to me one day, he said, "You're never going to get it." He said, "Because you have such a healthy fear of the virus." And that doesn't mean that those that are living with HIV, so please don't chew up every word, overanalyze every word that I'm saying. That doesn't mean that someone who has HIV didn't have a fear of it. That was
Hmm.
just the way that he packaged it and gave it to me, right?
Hmm.
And so I dated 3 people, but it wasn't an easy decision. And so the reason that I said that they all found out after we were already on the road to getting into a relationship, because if I'm honest with myself, I can't tell you that if I found out or if they knew already when we first started dating and they told me day 1 on the first date, I can't tell you that I would have been like, "Oh, okay, that's fine. Let's go ahead and do it." I can't tell you that.
So
So in
can
other
I?
words, I had feelings for them already when they
What
told
can
me.
I? So can I ask you a question then?
Yeah.
So do you? So when you were already in a space with them when they found out, did you feel? And this is a because of a lack of a better word, but did you feel guilted into staying with them because of that notion? Because you don't want to seem like that person that was like, oh, you're negative, I gotta leave you now. So did you
Mhm.
feel the kind of pressure to stay in the space because they found out their information?
No, I never felt pressure because I'm a very decisive person and like
Hmm.
I'm not easily influenced, if you will. So like my decision is my decision. But I will tell you, in one of my relationships, whenever we had an issue in the relationship that had nothing to do with that,
Hmm.
he would always say to me, "Oh, you're just looking for a reason to leave me because I'm HIV positive." Like he would all,
Hmm.
so I felt guilted in that way to stay when the issues had nothing to do with that. It was just other issues. But then I started to sometimes feel like, well, he's using that to try to keep me by saying this, that, and the third.
Right.
But but what I will say is, I think that it's important for every single person who is negative and they are on that decision board, if you will, if they've met someone, because I've had friends that have reached out to me and said, "Listen, I just met this guy. He's really great, but he just told me he's HIV positive. What do you think I should do?" I would never dissuade someone from dating someone positive because I think it's a very personal decision. But with that
Hmm.
being said, I think it's important that if and when a
Okay.
person makes a decision
Okay.
to not date someone that's HIV positive, I don't think that they should be guilted because I've seen people that are HIV positive
Hmm.
make a person that's negative feel bad for making the choice not to date someone that's positive because usually their go-to answer is, "Oh, well, you don't know enough about the virus," or that's where stigma is, or you need to go educate
Hmm.
yourself. You know what I mean? So, and sometimes it has nothing to do with ignorance. It has everything to do with what I was saying to you the other night when we announced this. And that is what another friend of mine said. And he said, I'm negative. I was in a marriage with someone for 6 years that was HIV positive. But after, and this was pre-prep, but he said, but after a few
Hmm.
broken condoms and or condoms slipping off or whatever, he said, I just don't want to date someone that's HIV positive again. And he said, because in a long-term committed
Right.
relationship, I want the luxury or the option. He didn't say luxury. He said, I want the option of having unprotected sex. And he said, and I don't really want to consider whether or not he's undetectable or whether or not there's prep or something like that. He said, I just
Hmm.
don't don't want to do that.
So, Craig, I'm going to let you bring up our SME because I
Okay.
gotta run and just check my talent real quick. So
Okay.
you can have that.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
just drop me down. You'll see when I come back.
All right. All right. So our SME for the evening is Dante. And
I was even ready.
Dante is a good friend of mine. And so go ahead, just tell them who you are, what you do, so that you can kind of speak from the place of.
Got it. Cool. Hey, everybody. I am Dante Morrison. I'm a Los Angeles-based HIV advocate. I really educate about HIV. I am HIV positive, been positive for 21 years. So I do a lot of conversations about just HIV awareness and basically educate people who are not living with HIV that how you can date someone with HIV, questions you should be asking. Also, people who are living with the virus, I give them the encouragement they need to understand that we all have heard it. It's not a death sentence, but it's really all about how you take care of yourself. Similar to any kind of health disparity, you got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, proper diet, exercise, all that kind of stuff, adhere to your medications and the whole gamut. Looking at the comments, it was interesting. And then listening to you and Derek J talk, it was also interesting at the different perspectives about HIV and people living with HIV and folks just saying, oh no, I would never. And that's cool. That's cool. I think back when I was first diagnosed, like the first few years, I was like, oh my God, everybody is just shaming me and this and this and this. And Craig, we've talked about this, people saying, oh my God, you got the sauce. You're dirty. Yeah, you got the sauce. You got a house in Vegas, HIV.
House in Virginia, if you're on the East Coast.
Listen, right. Or when you go on dating apps and you hear people ask, are you clean or dirty? And it's like, how are you associating living with HIV as being dirty? And I think one of the issues that I would just like to bring up that I think it's a fair question is for what are we doing to remove the stigma of HIV? Because I think a lot of concerns when it comes to people living with HIV and why some don't disclose is because there's still a lot of stigma, and stigma leads to ignorance. And ignorance is not a bad word. It's just really about lack of education. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing to make people who have HIV feel safe and comfortable to disclose their status? Fortunately, I'm at a space right now. I mean, I'm 48 years old, been positive since my 20s. And I'm like, if you don't know by now, listen, I got HIV. What you want to do? But a lot of folks have not reached that place of comfort with their status. And especially within the gay community. HIV is rampant within the gay community. And it just amazes me as an educator that we still don't have the in-depth conversations about this amongst Black gay men. And me and Craig always talk about it. We like all these Black gay dudes to say, I will never. You have and just didn't know it. Yeah, you have and just didn't. Right. So it boils down to people who have HIV, if they're on their medication, if they're undetectable, they cannot transmit the virus. It's called U equals U. So I challenge everyone to Google just the letter U =U. And it's undetectable equals untransmittable. So you can have a serodiscordant relationship. Serodiscordant means somebody is positive and somebody is negative. You come together. If the positive individual is on their medications and they are undetectable, the odds of you contracting HIV is slim to none. It's slim to none. But it really boils down to, Craig, is how bad do you want to get to know this individual? And is HIV the ultimate deal breaker? Because I know folks, they'll rather date a criminal, a domestic abuser, and all kind of stuff before they date someone living with HIV. And I'm just
ask you this. I want to ask you this, and I want you to think about my question before you answer.
All right.
Now, how old were you when you became HIV positive? You told me before, but I can't remember now.
I was 29.
At 28 years old, mm-hmm. I need you to think about this before you answer. Mm-hmm. At 28 years old,
I would not have dated someone with HIV.
You already knew where I was going with it. So those people that are in the GED section, they have no clue what we're talking about. I was going to ask Dante, before you became HIV positive, when you were 28 years old, would you have dated someone HIV positive?
No.
So I appreciate that honesty.
No. And a lot of it had to do, we talking 20 years ago, a lot of it had to do, for one, the education was not out there within the Black community like it is now. You know, so my idea, you know, in 1999 of HIV was Tom Hanks in Philadelphia. You know, I equated HIV to AIDS. AIDS equals death. I'm like, oh my God, if I date somebody with AIDS, not knowing to differentiate between the two, if I get somebody with AIDS, if I get somebody with AIDS, then I'm gonna die. So no, I ain't rocking with no dude that got AIDS. Everything was AIDS, AIDS, AIDS. You know, and of course, like I think Derek said it perfectly. If you don't have to deal with it, it's not something that you really educate yourself on. But once I seroconverted, you know, and tested positive, I was like, oh, the game done changed. And I went through those years of like, I want to die. I'm never going to have sex again. I'm never going to date nobody. Nobody want, you know, it's all that kind of stuff. So I forced myself to get educated. And then once I got educated, I started to realize how much misinformation is out there in my community. And what can I do to make sure that all the young people coming up behind me will know how to do this? Because like we just said, the odds of you meeting somebody and really liking somebody that has HIV as a Black gay man is high. So how do you navigate that? Because if your immediate response is no, hell no, I will never, you're cutting your losses with a lot of good dudes. I'm a good dude. I mean, I'm locked down. I got somebody, but I'm a good dude. And I know a lot of good dudes out there that have HIV, but they're never given a shot because people are not educated on the level to fully understand that you can date someone HIV positive, have unprotected sex, and still not contract the virus.
Okay, now let me ask you this. Let me jump in. So I want to kind of move the conversation to undetectable and detectable, right? Because what I'm starting to see is there's a hierarchy. And Derek J and I were talking about this yesterday and today. We're actually already setting up our topics for next season. So that's going to be one of our conversations. But I want to just kind of touch on it briefly because I'm starting to see this separation even within the HIV community. Those that are undetectable saying, oh, well, I'm HIV positive, undetectable, as if I'm not like them over there. You know what I mean? This is completely different.
Right.
And so what do you want to say about that?
I mean, I get it. I understand it because it's really, you know, people who are undetectable.
It's so elitist though. It's like, oh, well, you know, I'm undetectable.
But you know what? Honestly, no shade. And because I work in this field and because I am someone who is undetectable, it is a battle to get to undetectable status. That means that you are really on top of your medication. You are really doing what needs to be done to get to that level. You know, so it's like if you're in this room full of people and y'all all got HIV and you talking to us like, oh my God, how are your meds treating you? Are you taking your meds? And you with somebody like, hell no, I ain't taking that stuff. What? You're not on medication? What's wrong with you? Why do you not want to take your medication? Your medication can elongate your life. Your medication can protect the persons you have sex with because you're undetectable. So it's like the conversation changes. So yeah.
Okay, let me move it a little bit more.
Turn to some more. I'm in the car.
That conversation about being undetectable and how it plays out on these mobile apps, Jacked, Grindr, etc. Because again, a lot of times I even see people that are HIV positive weaponizing HIV status because it's, oh, well, I'm undetectable, you're detectable, especially when it comes to this whole idea of having raw sex in casual sex online with someone that you do not know, you know, having unprotected sex. And oftentimes I've seen it where it's someone that's undetectable trying to have sex with someone or trying to hook up with someone where it's a conversation about a hookup between someone who's undetectable and someone who's negative, right? And usually, quote unquote, the selling point is, oh, well, we can still hook up because I'm undetectable. And so I've seen where some have said, well, listen, I'm still not okay with that. But I've seen some who have said, okay, well, he's undetectable. I'm going to go ahead and take my chances and have unprotected sex with him. First of all, you don't know this person. You don't know whether or not they're undetectable or not.
Don't do that.
So what do you want to say?
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because you're right. Undetectable. And now that the education is out there about undetectable equals untransmittable, yes, it is become a catchphrase. You know, kind of like praise the Lord, everybody. Everybody praise the Lord. You know, it's like, no, it's just, it's a You don't want to do that. It's a sound bite. So you're correct. If you are out there hooking up, and I don't sex shame, get it in. Get it in. Get greasy. Do what you got to do. But don't just take someone's word for it. Because when it comes to getting with someone who is HIV positive, and we're talking about dating, relationships, that takes conversation. That takes trust. So you need to get in the moment with this person and say, yo, you said you're undetectable. Can you explain to me what undetectable means? Since you want to say it so quickly, let me see your medications. Let's talk about what you're on.
But my thing is, the reason why that is so dangerous to me is because you're essentially taking someone's word.
Yeah.
That they're, and even in the scope of a relationship or somebody you're dating, unless you're going to that doctor's appointment with that person, you don't know if if they're undetectable or not.
Right.
You do not know.
Same way as someone tells you, oh, I just tested yesterday. Ironically, you tested yesterday, you want to smash right now. Okay, that still means nothing because we got the window period. Absolutely. And that's something we don't talk about. People run out and get these HIV tests. They get tested, they see the results, but they don't calculate how long those tests take to read accurately.
Right.
So it's 4 to 12 weeks to get a true result. And that's 4 to 12 weeks of you having to be celibate. That means no sex, oral, anal, or vaginal, and then go and get an HIV test. If you are still negative, after 12 weeks, then yes, you are now negative. But what happens, and we know how this goes in our community, Craig, we date quickly. We date for a month and we marry by month 2. And the thing about that is we'll meet somebody at the spot and we'll say, well, I'm not going to have sex with you until you get an HIV test. You go and get tested together. Yeah, that test comes back negative, but you got to realize you just met this person 2 weeks ago. So as of 2 weeks ago, yeah, they were negative, but they're still in the window period. They can seroconvert at any given moment.
Exactly.
So that means anybody they had sex with from the time you met them until 3 months prior, they could have been exposed to HIV.
Now let's talk briefly about PrEP.
Okay, PrEP. Biomedical.
Because you have I want you to explain what PrEP is, because I know there's people that are watching that may not know what it is. Yeah. But I'm really on the fence with this PrEP thing, because I'm not getting on it. I just feel like I'm gonna listen. I just feel like my organs are good. I don't need you to be fucking up my kidneys.
Your liver.
Density and shit to be fucking up in 5 to 7 years. So, but here's the question I want to ask you. What do you say to folk who are just kind of cavalier with this casual sex thing just because somebody says, oh, I'm on PrEP? Or just because they're on PrEP and they're like, oh, well, I'm on PrEP. And so they feel like it's a license to have unprotected sex. Now, what do you say to PrEP?
Well, because I work in the field, I know that PrEP is effective. I work for an organization. We do provide PrEP and PEP. We don't talk about PEP at all. We have pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is PrEP, and post-exposure prophylaxis, which is PEP. So think about PEP, the post, like the morning after pill. So if you think you've been exposed, you have 72 hours to get on PEP, and that will decrease your chances of seroconverting. All right. But when it comes to PrEP, PrEP has become just this mindset of individuals like, well, syphilis, chlamydia, and gonorrhea, those are curable. If I get that, I'm good. But I hate using condoms. I'm on PrEP. Come on, let's smash. That's still risky.
I wanted Dr. David Malbranch on here tonight because we did a podcast before, and we had a conversation where he has a personal experience with a friend of his that was on PrEP and seroconverted. Now, again, he doesn't know if the guy was using PrEP correctly, but just like condoms, PrEP is not 100%. So for those of you to think that it's a license to go out here and fuck raw, just because you on PrEP, not to mention the super gonorrhea and chlamydia and all these other things out here, you really are taking chances.
And the key word is adherence. The key word is adherence. It's all about adherence. And the people that are on PrEP and then they end up contracting HIV, there's usually a lapse in how they took the medication. They may have missed a dose or two, or they started PrEP and didn't give it enough time to get fully in their system. And then they went out there and just started doing it. It takes some time for PrEP to get in your system to become fully effective. So you want to make sure that if you try any kind of biomedical HIV prevention strategy, that you are adhering to it 100%. 100%. 100%. There is no wiggle room. Similar to women that are on birth control pills, when they miss that day, you know, they looking like, oh, I got to double up the next day. You can't double up with PrEP. You got to get back on that cycle, you know. So, you know, anything else, Craig?
Well, no, that's it for now. But just hang around. I know you got about 20 more minutes for this, but I want to kind of move through the people that are here in the panel.
Sure. I got you. All right.
Hold on. All right, so I'm going to come to my friend Jonathan. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yeah.
Hey, how are you? Okay.
I'm good.
So you heard what we were saying, and I'm sure you had ideas of what you wanted to talk about when you came on here tonight. So what would you like to add?
No, I didn't have no ideas actually. I just knew that what the conversation was going to be about, and I wanted to just give my little 2 cents.
Okay, what's your 2 cents?
That I am positive, I'm HIV positive. I've never heard about the hierarchy with the detectable, undetectable crew. However, I am undetectable. He said it was a battle. Dante said it was a battle becoming undetectable, and I don't know that to be my experience. I've been positive for 2 years since 2018. I found out, like, not even trying to find out, you know. I went to the doctor getting health insurance when I moved back to Charlotte, and, you know, that's how I found out. I actually did get tested every 3 months. I was the guy that brought my friends, my aunt, my family to come get tested with me. In 2018 in March, I got tested in Dallas. Everything was good. Moving back to Charlotte in April, getting health insurance, you know, going through that process of just relocating. That's when I was diagnosed and found out that I was positive.
Okay.
From there, they instantly linked me up with the crew and the people that helps you and get you on meds and explain it to you. And from there, I want to say later that year, November, is when I became undetectable of 2018, and always been undetectable ever since. But I got tested regularly. Every 3 months was my thing.
So I have two questions for you.
Go ahead.
I have two questions for you. Prior to becoming HIV positive 2 years ago, would you have dated someone positive prior to that? That's my first question. Second question is, since you're recently diagnosed, when do you think it's time? At what point do you think you disclose to someone? Like if you're dating someone or you're going to have sex with someone, at what point do you determine when you disclose? So those two questions I want to know.
Okay. The first question, no, I was very vocal about that. And
you would not have
college. I would.
Okay, so prior to becoming positive, you are saying that you would not, and Dante said the same thing, let the record show that you would not have dated someone HIV positive. So my question is, because, and I'm gonna let you answer the other one, but I'm gonna throw this one in there too, because I'm telling you, I have been in rooms with people that are HIV positive that have said, oh, well, y'all act like it's, you know, you could date somebody positive. It becomes very personal when they are now HIV positive, but they were sometimes people who would not have dated someone positive as well. So it just becomes very, I've seen people be under attack.
Right. And I understand that. I never was like that, go on attack mode. However, my mindset was I didn't give that to you. So why would I be with you and allow you to give that to me? It was very, and this was what in college days, 2010, 2011. So for me, it was like, no, no. You know what I mean? And I was vocal, and I told friends who was positive, I had a real attitude about the situation, very vocal, and explained to them that it was your decision. You got it. It's your fault. You was reckless. Why would I be with you? And so
that's another misconception too, that people that are living with the virus were reckless, that they were whores and they were out in bathhouses, and that's not the case. That's not always the case. So I do want to kind of put that in. But when do you determine when you're going to share with someone that you're positive? How do you know when to do that?
It depends. Relationships or sex. Like sex, to be honest, I don't know if this is correct, but if you don't ask, I'm not giving you the information. So it's
I know a lot of people that are positive that have that same stance.
It's bad.
And I will say this in your defense, I personally think that it's the responsibility of both people. As a person that's HIV negative, I always ask. I ask. Because you may not have the courage, and I don't mean you per se, but you may not have the courage to say to me, listen, I'm HIV positive. You know what I'm saying? So I believe both people are responsible for asking.
That's correct. I agree. However, I don't give you the information if you definitely don't ask. So it's like, okay, it's on both of us. For me, I've dated. I've never had the issue, to be completely honest. Of telling somebody if I'm trying to be in a relationship. I've had exes. I've exposed it to my exes. I exposed it because we still communicate. Who still would try to like create a relationship. I've dated after finding out in 2018. Later that year, when I became undetectable, I got in a relationship and exposed it to him immediately after the first time we had sex. So,
so you disclosed it after you had sex. Now, was that sex protected or unprotected?
Completely unprotected. It was after the fact, and it was wrong. I know that was wrong, but my mindset was just, I'm undetectable now, or it was out of order. But we lasted a year and a half.
So wait, what did he say once you told him, and after you told him?
He was like, from a different experience that I had before him. He dealt with it. He kind of dealt with it, but then we went and got tested together because I said, you have too. I explained to him my story. I was like, I was in Texas. This is what happened. I was wilding out. I wasn't.
So he
afraid.
wasn't angry. He wasn't angry with you.
No, he wasn't angry. He was like, because his best friend, that guy was also positive, and he, was there for him, but he wasn't angry. So that's what I said. It's not my experience, but I know that happens, and it did happen to me one time right before him.
Okay. All right. Let me drop you down because I got a few other people down here that are waiting to talk. So let me drop you down, and we'll come back to you. All right. Let me just say this because somebody in the comments brought something to my attention based on what he was just saying. Depending on what state you're in, it is illegal. It is illegal. And that's another controversy within the HIV community where HIV has been criminalized. Because for example, like in Georgia, if you have sex with someone knowing that you're HIV positive, they can bring charges against you, but they've been trying to reverse that. And I don't know what other states they have that, but Georgia is one of those places. I'll tell a quick story and then I'm going to come to you, Cameron. I have a former friend. This was many, many years ago when I first moved to Atlanta. He was HIV positive or is HIV positive. He met a guy on a hookup type situation. They hooked up. They were having unprotected sex. The former friend of mine knew he was HIV positive, had been positive for many, many years at that point. And he was starting to really like the guy because it started off as a hookup, but then it became like more of a situation. And his way of disclosing to the guy was to pretend that he had just found out. So he like pretended he was upset and he had just learned, he was crying and just doing this whole thing because he couldn't face the fact that he knowingly was having unprotected sex with this guy. But with that being said, I want to bring Cameron up because Cameron worked in HIV prevention for a long time, and I'm going to let him share like what his jobs entailed. Because I know you were at the CDC. What?
Nothing. So yeah, I have had a couple experiences. Just to give you a little background, I actually have done some field work where I go out and we actually interview people that just men who have sex with men. And what they try to do is they try to figure out, what we're thinking in the moment. We're trying to figure out what it is that maybe, do we need more education? Do we need to be putting up magnums in the clubs because the other condoms aren't working? Things like that. So, but to talk about my experience.
Well, before you tell your experience too, one of the things that you did working with the CDC also was you went into the offices of health professionals too, and you interviewed like the clients to make sure that the health professionals were treating them with dignity and
Right.
all that as well.
So just to piggyback on that, yes. So for instance, we would go into the actual doctor's office to make sure that those that are positive are receiving the correct treatments, that they're staying on their meds, that they're going for their checkups, things like that. So the state is held reliable or it's not held reliable, but they are just trying to check to make sure that when you are going to your checkups, that you are getting the proper care and that you're staying on your meds, etc.
Okay. So go ahead, tell us about your personal experience.
I was in a relationship, and while in the relationship, it came up that they were positive. Me working in the field, when it fell on my plate, I was not ready for it. I really care, and to this day still do care for this person, and it was just different at that time that, you know, when they exposed that they were positive, it caused issues in the relationship. I didn't want to have sex, and it became verbal, it became physical, and I just knew that I had to get out of it. Now, would I do it over again or differently? Absolutely. But once they exposed that to me, you know, I even asked, can I go to the doctor with you? Because I knew what to look for. You can tell me like, and you know, Jonathan said, you know, he was undetectable, but you can tell me that, but that's totally different from me as a negative, healthy person. I need to know. I want to go to the doctor with you, especially if we're going to be in this long term. I want to go to the doctor with you. I want to make sure that the numbers that I see are true, or what you're telling me is true.
So now you're saying that you're a person that could handle dating someone that's HIV positive, but previously you couldn't. So my question to you now is, if you were dating someone that was HIV positive, but they were undetectable, and you went to the doctors with them, could you have unprotected sex with them?
I don't know. I don't know. Like, I just, no, probably not, because my mind, like now, it's racing. Like, I think I would still be a little nervous. And believe me, you know, I am all about, you know, protecting and helping those that are, and whatever resources they need. To this day, I help health departments and CBOs get funded. So I don't know. Like, it's for me, it's scary.
Right. All right. Let me move to somebody else. All right. Hold on. All right. I am him.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Craig?
I'm well. So you've been listening. What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Things I agree with, things I don't agree with, but you know, that's their experience.
Okay. What don't you agree with?
Me and my friends argue about this all the time. So I have close people that are affected by HIV, and I know they don't disclose that information. Now, I agree that you should, it's the responsibility of both parties. I do agree with that, both parties. But you knowing that you have it and the effects that it have on you, I don't understand why would you want to expose that to someone else and walk away like it's nothing. That's the part that I disagree with. The person, Dante, he did educate me on some things that I did not know about, honestly. I know that he said it was PrEP and then PEP, I think he said. But I'm currently PrEP. Yes. So I'm fully aware of that, but I didn't know some other things that he was talking about.
What weren't you aware of?
Okay, so he said with you being undetectable, he said that you can have sex without no condoms and not transmit it, but there's still a chance. I'm quite sure there is. Like there's still a chance. And I feel like that chance is something that myself would not want to take, per se.
Mm-hmm. 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 So have you dated someone positive before, or would you not?
Okay, so I have dated someone positive. I have in the past. So I'm 30 years old, and I'm currently dating right now. And at this point, the answer is I wouldn't date someone that's currently positive, even though I have in the past. But in the past, I was looking for something more so just playing around, just, dibbling, dabbling, or whatever the case may be. But now that I want something with more longevity, I don't want to be taking PrEP for the rest of my life. That's something that I don't want to do. Then, I don't want to do that. Then secondly, it's going to come a point in my relationship where I'm going to
have raw sex.
Right. You know what I'm saying? And with that being, and that's the truth. You know what I'm saying? But when I do that, I want to make sure it's after a long time and built up for that. And if I date someone that's positive, it's going to take that away as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and like I said, if I was just having fun, I'm quite sure I have had sex with HIV positive people. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm sure I have. But
because the number of HIV positive Black gay men that are in the community are too great for you not to have.
Right.
Any of us.
Right. But Craig, the thing about it was, so I came out at 14 years old. So when I came out at 14 years old, my father told me, boy, you're going to catch that disease that you can't get rid of. So when he said that to me, that scared me all the way up to like the age of 22. And then I was not touching anybody that had HIV positive. Like I was not at all, because it scared me so bad. But then once I started getting friends that was contracting it, I started learning more about it. So I didn't have no problem dating anyone that was positive. Because I was just having fun, a couple of months seeing somebody, it was no problem. But now that I want something more serious, I just can't foresee myself doing it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to drop you down, and I'll come back to you.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to bring Dante back because Dante has to leave in like 3 or 4 minutes. So I want you to kind of bottom line everything that you just kind of heard or anything you wanted to say.
Okay, I just think that, I'm loving the comments because I love how everybody's talking about this. It is a great conversation. I think one of the key words that I'm really starting to see right now is responsibility, and placing blame. And Craig, I think you said it earlier, how someone said you won't catch it because you're so conscious about health and so focused. But sometimes we have to understand that people that get HIV don't always get it from a jump off. They get it from someone that they love and trusted, and
according to the CDC, most cases, that's where.
Yeah, I was for 2 years, and then we broke up on I had it. So it wasn't like I was out there hitting the block, every other weekend. I was
in a relationship.
I was in a relationship. I was in a full-on relationship with someone, and when we broke up, then I tested positive because the individual happened to step out one time, and brought it back home, and that's what happened. And then the partner after that did not disclose. So I think it comes down to conversations. We cannot be scared to have conversations. And I know that's not easy to do when you first meet somebody because HIV is not a normal conversation, but we got to start talking.
But here's my thing. 2 things I want to say to that. First, that's the reason why, part of the reason why I don't know if I could really overcome infidelity in a relationship, because I just don't, we don't have the luxury to play like that, right?
Right.
The second part of what you said was, we need to start talking. See, for me, I just believe that if you can engage in something as intimate and personal as sex, sucking dick, eating ass, fucking raw, then you should be able to have the conversation and say, listen, Negro, when did you test positive? I mean, when did you last have an HIV test? What were your results? And here are my results, or let's go together. Because my thing is, if you can't have intimate conversations around sex, you shouldn't be having sex.
And I think Craig, you also had a good subject when you guys brought up, and I know I won't take with the whole thing, but when you talked about, negative shaming. So much money now is being generated to prevent HIV and focus on getting folks into care and all that, that a lot of HIV negative people feel excluded from conversations because the conversation is always so pause focused, you know, and I get that. I have a lot of HIV negative friends that feel like their voice is not being heard at the table because if you don't have HIV, you don't qualify for certain benefits, you can't get certain housing, you don't get certain food, and depending on someone's socioeconomic status, HIV can also be a means to survival. Some people will contract HIV just intentionally just to get government assistance. I work with a lot of homeless youth and they're like, well, my friend who has HIV got his own apartment. He gets a stipend for groceries. He gets money for this. So I might as well go out there and catch it.
It's called bug chasing.
Bug chasing. So I might as well catch it because if I catch it, now I at least will have lodging. I'll have shelter. So we have to realize that HIV is bigger than the bedroom. You know, for some people, it's a source of survival, you know, and we got to shift the conversation from, oh my God, you need to tell. Well, it goes both ways. It goes both ways because when I tested people and they fall out on the floor crying and screaming, I get them up lovingly. And I say, well, did you ask the person if they had HIV? No, they should have told me. Nah.
The onus is not on the person that's living with the virus.
It's both sides. It's both sides. And I get it. People who are living with HIV, they should be responsible. But you got to understand, if you're going to be my jump off, I'm not telling every single jump off I got HIV.
And it's the same way because I know people that have herpes, heterosexual people who have the same kind of trepidation about sharing that. But here's one of the things that I wanted to say real quick, and I don't know if you know this number, but when Derek and I were talking the other day, I said to him, at one point, the number was for every single person that knows their status, there are 9 people who do not. So you very well may be laying down with someone who just don't know that they're positive.
Mm-hmm. And it depends on the city you're in or the state you're in. DC, Atlanta, LA, Chicago, certain cities have higher rates of HIV, especially among Black gay men. Yeah. And down south, it's rampant because what can you do for free? Sex. If you broke, you may not can go to the club. You can't get your face beat by Derek J. You can't get none of that stuff done. But what you can do is you can have sex. You know, so when you're talking to a bunch of kids that they're bored because we've cut out youth centers, we have no music programs, we cut out after school programs, what can they do? Have sex? You know, so we have to begin to educate our kids on how to have sex in a healthy manner. You know, because our young gay boys are learning about sex from older gay men who are using them for their pleasure. And then once that kid turns 19 or 20, he done aged out. I don't want you no more. Now this 20-year-old kid is living with HIV. He hates all men now. He has trust issues. So he has no reason to tell anybody else his status because the person that gave it to him didn't give 2 shits about his existence. So it's a whole lot of levels of toxicity and mental health challenges that goes along with HIV. So for you negative individuals that are saying the positive folks have a responsibility to tell and to let me know your status, come on our side for a minute and ask yourself, well, damn, would I tell? Craig, you asked me when I was 28, before I seroconverted to positive, would I have dated someone HIV positive? I answered no. So to all you negative people, my question to you, if you test positive tomorrow, are you going to tell all your sex partners that you have HIV?
Well, so my...
Oh, now you back.
All right.
I did a whole spiel for 45 minutes.
Oh, no, well, you know, but I've been listening to you. So, but my thing is this. It's the same. I understand where you're coming from. And but it's the same kind of conversation when a bisexual man deals with a woman. You know, and they say, well, you know, they should let them know that they do deal with men also. I think that, yes, it's a jump off, and being a jump off is reckless. But I guess you have to accept the consequences that come with reckless behavior.
But Derek, we can't say reckless. We got to be sex positive. You can't say reckless. People do jump offs all the time. And when reckless, that's sex shaming. I don't want to sex shame anybody. Get your groove, Stella.
I'm calling it reckless because if I go out and get a jump off, right? And we don't have that conversation, that's it's reckless. You know, especially if you're not protecting yourself while having sex. Like, you know, so I feel like that's to me is reckless behavior. You know, and
Okay.
that's straight or gay. It's reckless. You know, but I do think, I know you say it's not your responsibility, but I do think that to me, that is still a conversation that has to be that will be had, because that's kind of like you're knowing, especially if you're having sex unprotected. If you're having sex unprotected, you're knowingly going into a situation knowing that you have something that can be potentially harmful to another person, but yet you do it. That's like me coming into a place with a gun and I'm playing with the gun in front of you, and I don't tell you it's a bullet in it, and I just keep shooting it.
Hold on, Dante. Here's what I want to elaborate on what Derek is saying, because for me, I'm HIV negative, but I've always felt like if I was to become positive or seroconvert, that morally speaking, I wouldn't be able to do it in good conscience. I would not be able to lay down with someone that is negative in good conscience. Now, I'm sitting here and telling you that I believe that the responsibility belongs to both people fucking.
Right.
But for me, if I was HIV positive, I would have to tell. I just wouldn't be able to live with myself. But not everyone is wired that way. So for those of you that are negative, you can't trust that just because you ask someone that they're able to tell you.
Because I will say this, when you get to that point that you're at the hookup stage, they're going to fuck you whether you're negative or positive. They don't give a. You're already at that point. You know what I'm saying? Because you're already at the space of it. Like, you know,
to do that. And then to somebody's point from earlier, part of the reason that sometimes people that are positive, some of the reason that people that are HIV positive, not all, but some, will not tell you is because of fear of rejection. So they sometimes won't even tell you that they're positive because they've had experiences where people walked out or left them alone or didn't talk to them, didn't return their calls. So again,
I dated someone that told me I was the best person they ever dated, but you got HIV, so I can't get with you. What? So I'm the best person you ever dated, but you can't commit to me because I have HIV. Okay, so you'd rather have the second best who's HIV negative. And it's those kind of conversations that make folks feel like, well, what the heck is going on? But what I was trying to say for Derek before I hop off, what I was trying for Derek when he was talking about jump off, I just want us to be careful because a jump off does not equate to unsafe. You know, there's a lot of folks that have jump offs every single day, 2 to 3 times a day, but they're always using protection. You know, they making sure everything is safe in the room. And I think when it comes to, I'm just big on language because I know stuff gets out there and we're on social media. Stuff can get misconstrued and just run. Derek J said everybody having jump offs, I should get HIV. That's not what Derek J is saying. I know Derek is saying be responsible. So if you're gonna have a jump off, be responsible.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's all. Because I know working in the field that I work in, people will twist up sex language left and right and come to the clinic and say, Derek J said I had a jump off, so I got to get tested. That ain't what he said. He said you got to have conversations and talk to people.
All right, Dante, thank you for being on here. I
appreciate it.
Thank you, Dante.
All right, now we got a couple more people on here that we need to bring on. I'm going to bring on Andy. Andy, what you got to say? You've been listening.
Hi.
Hi there.
So over the last 40 minutes, I've heard a lot about stigma and about HIV and about who should tell, who shouldn't tell. And this kind of reminds me of the idea of when DL men are DL and then and they, marry women and have children, they say, oh, well, why are you DL? You should come out. You should come out the closet. You should be who you are. But we live in a homophobic society. So you can't tell people to be who they are. And then when they are who they are, you persecute them, you discriminate against them, and you label them as second-class citizens. It doesn't, as long as there is a system of oppression, people are never going to be completely honest. And I know that might be hard for a lot of the people in the cheap seats, but that is, in my opinion, that's just how it is. You can't tell people to reveal their status to you, but then you treat them like second class citizens. As long as there's stigma, there's always going to be people who hide who they are. I also feel like when you have sex, there is a risk that you can have anything. I think that it is unfair to put the sole blame on HIV positive people. I do agree with Craig that it does take two to tango, and if you are going to have sex, that you have to be honest, both parties. When I was younger, I say that like I'm only 22, but when I was, a baby gay, I was like,
Not a baby gay.
It's up for the, it's up to the person that says positive, but it's just like, well, maybe if you have asked, then they may have told you, but it takes two. At the end of the day, that's just how I feel. And as a person who is like negative, I do feel like you, as a Black gay man, I do kind of have to like be over cognitive of like who I'm having sex with, because there's that stigma of like HIV is associated with homosexuality, and in the Black community there's a lot of homophobia, and so there's a lot of that intersect that maybe like straight people may not have that, like have to have those type of conversations. But I mean, if HIV can affect anybody, it doesn't have to just be gay. But I think there's a lot of stigma. There's a lot of people that associate gay with HIV, and especially if you're a man. And so I do feel like, it is kind of like my personal responsibility to keep up with my health, to be honest. But I feel like if everybody did that, then the world will kind of be a little better place. But I do want to say that, like you talked about PrEP, and I will say that like PrEP it's like a condom. Like, it's preventative care, but it's not abstinence. And I think
it is preventative care, but let me just jump in. It is preventative care. My issue with it is it's not new in terms of being treatment for people living with HIV, because it's been around for forever. But in terms of it being a new drug for those of us that are HIV negative, using it as a preventive measure. My issue with it is that long term, I was concerned that the penalty, if you will, of using it, or the consequence of using it, would result in some sort of a liver or kidney problem. Now we're starting to see reports where people have bone density problems and kidney failure and this, that, and the third. And so for me, I understand that there's a need for something, some sort of a vaccination or whatever, but I just figured I would take my chances with my own judgment and using protection as opposed to using PrEP. And see, there's a lot of medical mistrust in the community because of the whole Tuskegee experiment and the way that, the pharmaceutical industry has used Black people for experimental purposes.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of medical mistrust, right? So, and for me, I have a hard time wrapping my brain around this idea that white folks or pharmaceutical companies are so concerned about the lives of Black people that they're really going out of their way to find something that's going to save them. Because a lot of Black gay men were used in these trials, these clinical trials. And I know that there are more white gay men on PrEP now than Black, oftentimes because of, the insurances that they have cover it and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, we were the guinea pigs.
And
they were paying a lot of young Black gay men $100 to be tested and, that kind of thing.
But
can I jump in real quick? So, because I think this is a great conversation, but I also think that we also are like moving away from the topic of conversation, which is, but would you date someone that's HIV positive?
Because he never did say.
Well, that's because you never did ask, sweetie. You just let him come in and just start talking, child. You can't put me on mute, and I couldn't do.
Because your phone is snap, crackling, and popping back there like.
Okay, let me switch to my other phone.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Answer the question.
I think that yes, I think I could. I think honestly, I have the language and the knowledge, and that I could do that. I'm not gonna sit here and say it'll be easy, but I also feel like it's interesting how, like, if someone said, for instance, I could never date a person with cancer, I could never date a person with a disability, they would be considered like rude and like insensitive and ignorant. But HIV is always like the pinnacle. It's always like the worst thing that you could like have. And I just feel like all it takes is education and some.
Well, let me say this as devil's advocate. Let me just play devil's advocate real quick, because oftentimes the conversation of cancer comes up when you talk about, well, it's just like,
but you can't. I know you can't transmit cancer
because you can't transmit it. So
I do know that.
That's the difference.
But I mean, we put up with all types of crap that you can't necessarily catch. I mean, like you said, domestic violence, drug abuse. We tolerate a lot of stuff. So it's interesting how people like to pick and choose, like what's the worst thing, where I just feel like HIV is not the death sentence it used to be. I mean, it's just really not. I mean, I understand that I don't want it for sure, but I just feel like if people were more compassionate, especially I give more grace to gay people because we are, especially gay Black people, because we are, we're second class citizens, we're double minorities. We don't have the money, the capital, the education. But I just feel like for the straight folks, I just don't. I really kind of, for them, I do hold them a little bit more accountable and letting them know that what I kind of forget what I was gonna say. Basically, I just feel like it's easier said than done when you don't have it. Just like when you ask the people before you were negative, would you have done it? It's always easier when it's not in your backyard, behind the house.
It's easier to say that you would once it become personal for you.
Absolutely.
All right,
what you go? But I just wanted to say thank you guys. I really love you too. When I was younger, I really didn't have any Black gay representation, and we have so much now. And it's really nice to see Black gay men talking about these things other than Beyonce and Nicki Minaj. I really think that it's this. Although those things are great, there's some real issues that in the community that we're gonna talk about, and I really thank you guys for having me and having this platform. Craig, I follow you and Will on your podcast.
Thank you.
And I just thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Bye.
All righty. Did you want to say something before we bring someone else up?
I mean, is this sound quality better over here, sweetie?
It very much so is.
Thank you. You should have said, why you didn't text me and tell me? You got me out here. It's fine. Go ahead, Craig. Bring the next person up. You're a horrible producer.
Well, first of all, you know what?
It's okay.
Okay. Who is this? Let me see. Is it Day Real? Take your mute off.
You on mute.
There we go.
Oh, you hear me?
Yes.
There you go.
Hi, how you doing?
We're good. How are you tonight?
How are you?
I am awesome.
So let's start off with the question that Craig never asked anybody. Would you date someone HIV positive?
Yes, I will.
Okay. And talk to me about that. Have you?
Yes, I have. I'm 54 years old. Okay. I'm in New York City. Raised in Harlem, and I have a twist because I was in Michigan for 10 years in my 20s, and then a lot of my friends started passing away, getting sick, and then we started getting into more of organizations and conversations and going to meetings and stuff like that. And then that when the whole thing opened up to me, and then I found out my father, he had AIDS, and then I dealt with that for a minute because he passed away. So then I moved back to New York City in '98, and then I said, well, since I lost all my friends and I want to change my life, and I was in my 30s, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go and put myself in an organization and deal with counseling, outreach, and stuff like that. So I delved into that for 8-9 years. And I was doing outreach, and I was working in an organization, helping with the homelessness, with gay and people who are on drugs, and the whole mixture of things. And while I was doing that, I was meeting a lot of variation of different people. So it was like they had homelessness, and they had come from different countries, and is going through issues and things of that nature. And I would talk to them about how to find themselves as a whole, as a human being, because this is nothing to be fearful of, because that gives you more information about yourself. That gives you, sit down with a book and read and say, about my human body and how it works and things of that nature, so that you can get to more of an understanding. So when I got diagnosed in 2011, and I was in my 40s, and It was, it caught me off guard because it was like I always was practice safe sex with the guys I dated that were HIV positive. And at the time when I first dated someone who was HIV positive, that was AZT at the time. And a lot of that was messing with their brain chemistries, and it was messing with their thinking abilities, and and then sometimes their blood and stuff like that. People were getting cancer, and then people were getting, it was pancreas issues and stuff like that. So it was a lot of that going on at the time. But back to when I found out when I was diagnosed, it was not, it was like a quick thing. It's like 1 month I wasn't, and then the next month I was. So it was like that.
Let me ask you, let me jump in. So you said you always used condoms previously, and I'm just going to assume that at some point you stopped using condoms, or was it a broken condom?
No, I had a depression time. So it was like I was depressed about something that happened with my family, and then I was, I had to jump off. It was crazy.
and you didn't use protection that particular time.
I didn't use protection. It was looking back right now, it's like but it was this really crazy at the time. But when I went to the doctor and everything, they told me that I was HIV positive. I went and saw a counselor and everything, and they told me what was going. But I was undetectable out the gate. Out the gate at the very beginning, because I take care of myself. I was always on point about what I eat. Forget fast foods. And
okay, let me jump in again, J-Real. Let me jump in again. So, have you ever experienced any type of discrimination, if you will, where you?
Oh, of course. Here in New York City, please.
So that's what. Well, that's what we want to know. Like, what is your dating like? Like, and then what is your dating like? And then when do you?
Right. Well, currently right now, I'm in a relationship.
Okay. And so, at what point in your dating, and with the relationship you're in now, at what point did you have that discussion with them?
Well, we had that discussion out the gate. We had a discussion out the gate, but it was like we had a hookup, and then it was a reintroduced because we caught each other back online again, and then we came back into each other's lives, and we had a discussion then really deeply about stuff like that.
So do you think, so you heard our conversation earlier with Dante, do you think that is it your responsibility to disclose that information to people, or like how do you feel about that conversation?
Well, for that, it's for like jump offs. Yeah, jump offs. If you're not going, if you meet someone on Adam for Adam, right? Or Grindr, okay, you meet people for that, and not trying to give them any time, but but you meet people like that on there. They are a slew of people on there, and from my past, I've been on it. So it's been, I don't want to date nobody HIV negative, or I don't want to date anybody HIV positive. It was a whole back and forth thing because you would put it on your profile and let people know, and then sometimes you get idiots, and then sometimes you get nice people. So at this point in time, at my age right now, like I'm in a relationship, he's right here, so it's like everything is cool and dandy as far as you need to disclose to those who you care about. Now,
so have you ever had? Let me jump in. Have you ever had unprotected sex on a jump off where you didn't disclose, or with someone that you may have known and you just didn't disclose?
No. When I was single, I had protective sex with people who were HIV negative. I had unprotected sex with people who were positive.
Gotcha. Now, your relationship that you're in now, is he positive, or?
You want me to disclose that?
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Okay. So y'all was able to have that conversation. And how long y'all been together? We ask a lot of questions around here.
It's been a year and a month.
Okay.
Listen. So he just said that whenever he dates someone that's positive, he has unprotected sex. So they fucking. I know that's right, J-Real.
Greg, you are too much. You know that.
So now you're in a relationship now, and congratulations to your relationship. But a year and a month in gay world, that's like 10 years, y'all.
Trust me, I've been single I told you I got back in New York City in '98. I've been here for the whole 15 years and I hadn't had no real relationship. I don't have no exes here. He's my first like real relationship as far as long standing. I mean, a long time, because I've been dating. You know, I'm in my 20s. I had boyfriends, and we stayed together for like 2 years and stuff like that. But and at that time, I wasn't having anal intercourse. I was just having oral.
Well, that's how Derek is doing now.
But Craig, this is
That's
not
what Derek is doing,
Craig, listen,
ain't nothing wrong with that. You can do that. Listen, Derek, if you want to take baby steps and you want to do that, you do that.
No. This wait a minute, they real. That I'm fine with me. It's just the fact that Craig love putting my business in the street. Craig, I ain't said nothing about you tonight. We've been doing really good.
We have been doing
okay. So just stay. If you want to jump off,
you tried to pull me together a moment ago about how I'm using them. But wait a minute.
If you want to jump it off tonight, we can.
But let me just say this one last thing. Day real. You think he needs to take baby steps? He's getting a little too old to be taking baby steps still. Okay, he needs to go ahead and step.
But being that we're in the coronavirus pandemic, and and then also it also takes time for him to say, okay, let me really look at my playing field, my environment, and make sure that I can move the way I can move without making any mistakes. Work yourself out. Work the way you want to work it. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. But thank you so much, Darrell, and thank you for sharing
your
story with you.
I also want to say to everybody who is HIV positive out there, it is time in 2020, going further in the future, it's time to stop having any shame about this virus. We got a new virus now. So we need to stop having shame about this virus and worry about the next virus that's coming up. Everybody have a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell. We appreciate you.
Safe up there in New York. All right.
And I want to make sure everybody is very, very clear. When we talk about these hookup sites like Adam for Adam and Jacked and Grindr and those things, those nature, we are not bashing those sites because that's where Craig met Carlton at. So, you can find true love off of these sites. Wait a minute, what you say?
Mm-hmm. Carlton and I did not meet on any hookup site.
I wasn't going to tell them.
Carlton and I did not meet up on a hookup. Okay, we met through Will, you bitch.
Okay, so
we met through Will, you bitch.
I'm sorry. I try to keep your tea in my cup, but see, sometimes a little bit.
there was no tea there. And
it's fine. It's okay.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. And for my friend, somebody who just said Craig telling Derek's business. Derek told that himself on the live.
But Craig, we had this conversation 5 shows ago. That you don't got to bring it up every fucking show. You brought it up last night.
I just got to keep you honest when you get real uppity.
I wasn't up. I didn't say nothing. You brought it up last night. You bring it up today. You brought it up last week. You bring it up every day.
Derek, we got 2 more people.
You must want me to orally pressure you or something, honey, because you sure talk about it a lot. You're my sister. I can't do that with you, girl. I don't play those type of games.
Hey, Antoine. How you doing, Antoine?
Hey, Antoine. Unmute yourself. How are you? What, can we hear him?
Hear me?
Okay, there you go.
There we go.
Right. Yeah, Craig muted me earlier. So, first question. I'm pretty good. How are you guys?
We're great, thank you. So let's pose a question to you. Would you date someone HIV positive?
Absolutely.
Okay. Have you dated someone HIV positive?
Absolutely.
Okay. So talk to me about that. But we said we won't. Well, talk to me about that experience. And when did y'all have that conversation? How did y'all even get into that?
All right. So let me give you a little background first of why I'm so easy to answer yes, is because I'm a nurse and I'm also a HIV prevention case manager. Okay. So I'm educated on the topic. I always think if you're having sex with somebody, that should be the first thing you discuss. Mm-hmm. Period.
I agree.
I also think if someone's HIV positive, it's their responsibility to tell, their partner, whether it's a jump off, because, people are making jump off seem like, oh, I ain't gonna tell them whatever. No, you should tell the person, no matter who it is.
So as a health professional, you're saying you think the burden is the person that's HIV positive to share that?
Yes, that, in my opinion. Okay. But first and foremost, everyone should treat everybody like they're positive. Mm-hmm. And that would, say, I'm not having sex with you until, here's my my results. If you're trying to be in a relationship with someone, if you're not, if it's just a jump off, then I think it should be, where you should use protection, but you still should disclose that information with someone. But every time I've dated someone who was positive or whatnot, that was at the beginning because I am in the profession. So I asked, hey, are you positive? Have you ever dated someone positive? Yada yada yada. And it's an easy conversation for me to have with people because I'm there from the beginning. I test people or I'm helping people get services or whatever the case may be. I know that other side also. But in regards to, and I want to give a little bit about HIV and AIDS real quick. I see we keep talking about the young people. But the older generation is also starting to get an increase of STIs, period, all across the board.
STIs, explain that, please.
All right. So it used to be called sexually transmitted diseases. So now it's sexually transmitted infections. And that's what they are because some of those infections can be treated and be done with, like a gonorrhea, antibiotics or whatever, and keep it moving. But in regards to people saying, we need to teach the younger guys, younger girls, what have you, we forget about the older population. There's one little thing that was a blessing for some, which was Viagra and Cialis. We don't talk about how you have these guys who were 60, 65, 70 now having sex. And with them having sex, they have unprotected sex because now you have these old heads who are out here, oh, I'm not putting on a condom. You must be crazy. Or I'm keeping it 100. Or once a month, they're getting their social security checks and they're going out on the little corner and having a little fun with whomever, male or female. And they're being exposed. And so that's why.
Let me add something in there too. You got to consider people who are widows or widowers after being married for 30 or 40 years and not using condoms. And then they're back out in the dating world. So that also factors in as well.
And just to even give a little insight on the older crowd, here in Florida, there have been a few of the retiree communities, their nudist retirement communities. They've had, numbers increase with gonorrhea, syphilis, the super gonorrhea. So, you just have to, be mindful that it's not just a young thing. You also have to remember the older people are also getting exposed also. But in regards to, I want to give a little bit about the dating sites, and people always ask why the virus and STIs themselves are increasing. Well, sex for MSM, men seeking men, is more accessible. You think about the 70s, 80s, and 90s, it wasn't a thing. It was all on the hush. So now you have apps like Grindr, Scruff, BBC. You're meeting people off of Facebook, whatever the platform is. It's easier. They don't have to hide. They don't have to, feel like, oh shit, somebody's going to see me, over here. And
so let me pull you back though. So you said that as a health professional, you would date someone HIV positive, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, so for someone that's undetectable, would you have unprotected sex with someone who's undetectable?
If I were on PrEP, yes.
What if you're not on PrEP?
That means no.
That means
I want to hear him say it.
I mean,
no. They would have to be on PrEP.
I want to hear him say it, daughter, because you have a lot of folk that are out here having unprotected sex with people that are undetectable, and they're not even on PrEP. So I wanted to hear him say it. Exactly. Because a lot of people have this misconception that, oh, well, they're saying that, not us, but the pharmaceutical company and the HIV AIDS drug companies are saying, oh, well, it's untransmittable, da-da-da-da. So you got people that think they can just jump out here on a dick and be okay.
Exactly. And then the thing with that, you were talking about the bug traces and everything, and I'm not going to even, go that far, but you have people who don't realize that, hey, well, let me just put it this way. There are young people out there who's taking their friends' meds, right? Never had any blood work, knowing they're positive, but, well, they're using it as a form of PrEP. So they might get on a med called Biktarvy, and they would use their homeboy's medication. Well, if I use their HIV meds, then I won't get it, and they'd have no clue, because they're not educated, and that's part of the problem, with the whole stigma. The education is not there. You don't, especially here in the South, you don't have the churches allowing people to come in talking about HIV like they should. Here in Florida, it's the Bible Belt, so you don't have a lot of resources for people who can actually have a conversation and say, hey, I see people like me in this setting. How can I be educated on something like HIV or AIDS? But we don't have it, and especially in the African American community. And one other note, Craig, right quick. You asked Dante earlier, or you mentioned something about the percentage of people in the U.S. It used to be 1 to 9. Now it's 1 to 7. So there are 1.2 million people in the U.S. age 13 and older who are HIV positive. 1 out of 7 of those 13 and above don't even know they have it.
Right. Okay.
So one last question before we let you go. So is it and I'm just this is an ignorant question, but I'm just asking for the masses. You can safely date an HIV positive person if you are HIV negative.
Yes, absolutely.
But now, can you safely date an HIV positive person if you're HIV negative without using PrEP, or PrEP should be part of that relationship?
Absolutely, you still can, because you would use the twist to that would be if you're going to use protection or not. If you're going to use condoms, then so be it. But then that goes to go back to, say, a female and another female. Say one is now bisexual and she wants to have sex with another female. Well, you got to also think those toys can transmit the virus, so they're not going to use condoms. So then it just depends on the situation. So
okay, thank you very much for your insight. We appreciate you being part of this conversation.
You're welcome.
We have 2 more people down here.
Okay, I'm gonna let you handle that. I have to go back to set.
Okay.
So you guys, I'm gonna let Craig handle this up. Please, y'all, let me know if Craig's messing up. I mean, I'll make sure.
All right, so we have 2 more people here.
Okay. You know what? That's why you can't be on the button.
Oh my God.
I want to say, I want to personally thank all the participants that was being part of the show. We have 2 more people left that Craig will, long-windedly have a conversation with. And don't you press that button, Craig.
I'm not gonna press it. Go ahead.
But I want to thank you guys for being part of it. I have to go back to work, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks for our next conversation. All right? Bye, you guys.
But yeah, so we have 2 more people, and let me see. Eon Lighthouse.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I saw you in the comments, and I dropped the link because I saw your, you wanted to come on and say something. So what did you want to say? So the first question is, would you date someone HIV positive or not?
In the past, I would, but knowing that all what you all have been discussing now, I don't think it's a good idea to.
Mm-hmm.
It all depends on how can I put it? How you fall for somebody, and it depends on how the person contracted it too. To me, if you was out here just being careless and stuff, I feel some type of way about that than if you weren't.
So why is that important to you? How they contracted it?
Because you was just out here wilding out, and to me, I don't know if there's right to feel that way, but it makes me feel some type of way that you just didn't care about your life. Now, if you was, yeah, I'm just gonna put it like that. If you was out here wilding out and stuff, I feel some type of way about that.
And so, what if they weren't? What if they contracted it from a previous relationship?
That's different.
So you would be okay with dating someone if they contracted it in an acceptable way in your opinion? Is that what you're saying? I think we may have lost him. All right, let me go to this last person, and then I'm going to come back to all of you if you want to have some final word. Tatiana, are you there? Take your mute button off, or maybe I.
Yes, I am.
Hey there.
I'm the last person, so I've gathered a lot of information, and I'm not in the LGBTQ community, but my sister is. And listening to everything. I'm 22, by the way. For they were like, she don't really know anything, but I've been listening to everything y'all said. It was very educational. I wanted to make my statement and say, I don't think I'm mature enough to date someone with HIV or with AIDS. Considering my age, I'm still learning things. My mom is still coaching me on, watch your tone with a man, why you snap so hard. So I'm still learning those small things versus working with something and dealing with something so massive as dating someone with HIV. And I wanted to add to the last panelist when he said about the recklessness. I believe, my mom will correct me if not, she'll text me. My aunt had a blood transfusion. You can get it through that. So it's not about people just, out here having sex wild and doing all these different things. You can have it, without even knowing. My grandmother was against blood transfusion.
Well, they screen the blood now. Let me just say that. They do screen the blood now.
It was back in the 80s.
Right.
Before I was even thought of. So I didn't get to meet her. It was my grandmother's sister. I was thinking about all of that. They do that now. So you have to consider all of that. But I don't think I'll be mature to do it. The only way I feel like, and then I'll feel betrayed if this happened, if they was to lie to me. If I was to find out, because my mom was texting me a few minutes ago and was asking, what you do if you were in love and you didn't know, then she asked me, do I ask all of my, my partners, even when I was in a relationship, have they had it? Now, I'm from Mobile, Alabama. I've had people, just amongst, the younger crowd, in the mid-age crowd, they joke about STDs. I don't know if you know about NBA Youngboy, the young rapper. He came out and put in his song that he had herpes. Before that came out, the younger crowd was like, ugh. Now, when he said it, everybody, they're kind of free about it. They're, oh, NBA Youngboy got herpes. They joke about that type of stuff. Now, when I got with my last boyfriend, like before we had sex, I was just feeling him out. He was my coworker, and I was talking to him, and I was like, have you ever had any STDs or anything like that? And he came and he said, I had chlamydia in the past years. That's not nowhere near equal to AIDS or HIV, but I was kind of like, kind of shocked. I didn't know how to take it. Of course, I went on with the relationship because it was, he got cured for it, and it was before my time. But I did respect him enough because some people don't even want to come out about STDs or STIs. They don't even want to come out about that. So I did respect him for that, being in the straight community, because that is not something people, especially, I'm just going to say in my city. I can't speak about Atlanta or Birmingham, Alabama, Montgomery, but I know a lot of people here in my city. So that is not a conversation that comes up. Like, I was going live on my Facebook. It was people tuning in and watching till they heard what we were talking about. They exited off. Right. Only a few of my closely family and friends were still watching, and I was telling them to come on YouTube and watch it. But that's a conversation no one is ready to have. And everyone just ill and awe at it. But I got a lot of education from it. I can pass this, information on until my friends and my sister, in the LGBTQ. I'm trying to get everyone here to watch it. So that is it's a lot of stuff that I learned.
Right. Okay, Tatiana, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All righty. All right, so I'm going to come back around to the people that have been watching. Antoine, I Am Him, Jonathan, if you guys want to make any final statements. And I know that I have some heterosexual women in the comments, and they're asking, well, what about us? Why is this conversation so gay focused? That's because all of the conversations that we have center on Black LGBTQ issues. So absolutely, if you're a heterosexual woman, you absolutely need to broach this conversation with your partner, especially those of you that are dating men. that are in prison, that were in prison, that just came home from prison. Like, these are conversations that you need to have. And oftentimes, whether you're a heterosexual woman or a Black gay man, oftentimes people don't have this conversation because they believe that the relationship is so fragile that if you touch the subject, that it's going to fall apart. And if it is, then it just needs to fall apart. But you need to always take care of yourself and protect yourself and ask questions, because I believe a part of taking care of yourself is telling people how you feel. And with that being said, I'm going to jump back to I Am Him. Did you have any final words? Anything you wanted to say? Take your, let me see. Unmute the thing, unmute it. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so only thing I just wanted to say was you said something that previously, I think last night, or if you didn't say it today, you said earlier that your friend was undetectable at first, and then he had a lot of stress, and then it all changed and all of that. So my thing is, again, even if you're dating someone that's undetectable, I mean, are you gonna go to the doctor every single time their stress level go up? I mean, that's just a big chance. And lastly, the last thing I want to say is, no, I'm surprised no one actually touched on it tonight, but in the gay relationship, they say that bottoms are more acceptable to actually contracting it more so than tops. And I think they actually have a role to play with it as well. But I mean, like I said, right. So I mean, but ultimately, I just feel like just know your status. And like I said, and another thing you did say that I agree on was morally, I personally don't think that I could sleep with someone knowing that I have it, even if a hookup, whatever the case may be. I don't think personally I could do that. I don't feel like I could sleep right knowing that I just possibly gave that to someone.
Right. All right. Thank you. I Am Him. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Be safe. Take care. Antoine, final word.
Yes, sir. Let me piggyback on I Am Him's statement about. Oh, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. His statement about bottoms being easily, they can contract it a lot easier. But you also have to remember guys who are also uncircumcised, can contract it a lot easier also. So it's not just the bottoms, but on that also, people who may have a canker sore in their mouth and you have an oral sex,
or that you had a root canal, just had a canal,
or brushing your teeth, brushing your gums very hard with a hard toothbrush. It's all reasons and ways you can get it. But one other thing I wanted to say is people also forget about tattoos. In the hood, you're having all these people have these hood tattoo parties now, right? That's becoming a thing. They're saying, I have people tell me all the time, hey, I watched the tattoo artist change the needle. And I'm like, yeah, but you didn't have him change the ink. So it defeats the purpose. And then they look at me like, oh shit, I didn't think of that. But yeah, that was all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you, Antoine. I appreciate you for joining tonight.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Jonathan, any final words? Take your mute off for me, please.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You can hear me? I enjoyed the conversation tonight. I think Antoine and Dante was very informative, enlightening. I spoke my truth. Moving forward, just to clear it, no backtracking. That was my truth back then. However, I'm very open. I'm very honest. Anybody I encounter sexually or potentially a date, I'm open about that. I let them know. However, that was the beginning stages. It's phases that you go through. Those was my beginning stages of my truth of when I was diagnosed. I was like, oh well, it is what it was, and that's just the truth. And people got to realize that.
Right.
But I enjoyed tonight's conversation.
Thank you for participating.
Absolutely. I enjoyed. Great conversation started. I believe we can move forward, transition, and bring this up in depth further down the line.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right. Daryl, did you want to have a final thing?
Hi. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It was it's very informative. I heard a lot. I'm a psychologist, so everyone needs to also understand that as human, regardless of the fact our labels that we wear, as human to human, we need to watch out for each other and be real and open with each other. And if relationships you don't get with people because of what they look like in appearance or what they got in their pockets, because those are things that trip you up to have HIV, to get HIV, to get STIs. So you have to be open with other people. And if those people are not open with you, then you know to move on and find someone who will be.
Right.
And thank y'all for having this conversation with us tonight. I will be watching y'all because I am supportive of everyone on this planet. So
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. You have a nice evening.
You too. All right, so listen, this is the end of this particular conversation for tonight. I want to go ahead and announce our final conversation for this season. Our last conversation is going to be 2 weeks from today. I believe that's December 2nd. We're going to take off the rest of December, January, and we're going to resume the very first Wednesday in February. So in that month's time, or that 2 month period, we're going to be working on some stuff. So if you want to support us, you can here. My Cash App is there. But our very last conversation is single LGBTQ. I know the flyer says gay, and you're over 30. So we want to hear from those people that are single LGBTQ and you're over 30 years old. Okay. Email us. You have the email address. It is glmconvo. It's scrolling at the bottom. glmconvo@gmail.com. That's glmconvo@gmail.com. All right. So we will see you guys on December 2nd. And I know that some of you said that this should be a 2-part conversation. We have already started writing down topics for the next season. We'll definitely talk about HIV again. We'll definitely tackle some of the same conversations or an extension of the conversations that we talked about before, whether it's trans community. We're going to be talking about domestic violence in the gay community. So many other topics. So if you want to email us some topic suggestions, you can do that as well. But glmconvo@gmail.com. If you want to participate in the next conversation, it's single LGBTQ and over 30. Have an amazing night. There's a sale over at CraigTheWriterStewart.com with promo code BUY BLACK. It's BUY BLACK. All right. Have an amazing night, y'all. Stay safe.